Coach Lavell Edwards has, during his 14 years as head coach of Brigham Young University, totally changed the school's football history. Before Lavell took over in 1972, BYU had won their conference championship only one time. Under Lavell, in 14 years, the Cougars have captured the conference championship 11 times and competed in 10 bowl games. In addition to his remarkable coaching skills, Coach Edwards has earned his doctor's degree in education and has served as a bishop of the Mormon Church. He now will share with you his convictions on how to build a winning tradition. Coach Lavell Edwards.
Before I became the head football coach at Brigham Young University, I worked for BYU as an assistant coach. At that time, I was also a bishop in the Mormon Church on campus. In both jobs, I counseled a lot of young people who came to me with problems. One of the first things I told them was that they were not alone with their problems. They were not the Lone Ranger. I told them we all have problems, that every situation in life has its own built-in problems. There are different kinds of problems, certainly, but without them, there would be fewer opportunities for growth. Having problems doesn't make you unique. It doesn't mean you're destined to be a loser. It's how you handle your problems that counts. Problems can overcome you, or you can overcome them. It's that simple. I've had my problems. Show me a football coach who hasn't. There were times when I thought I had more than my share. You probably have felt that way too. Maybe you feel that way now. I knew even when I was growing up that I wanted to be a coach. I never considered anything else. So I became a high school coach, and with the record that I had, I probably should have gotten out of coaching. I was a high school coach for 8 years and never had a winning season. For the first 5 of those 8 years, I coached the old single-wing formation, and we seldom, if ever, threw a pass. I believed in the old philosophy. When you throw a pass, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. In 1962, I was hired as an assistant coach at BYU. I stayed on that job for 10 years, eventually becoming the defensive coordinator. But in that time, BYU had only 4 winning seasons. We weren't going anywhere. That was the situation in 1972 when I was appointed the head football coach at BYU. There I was, 42 years old, and in 18 years of coaching, I had been associated with only 4 winning seasons. Brigham Young University had won only 1 conference championship in its history, and there was little reason to believe they would win another one soon. But I'm happy to say we turned it around. In the 14 years I've been a head coach, we won 11 conference championships and the national championship in 1984. We've won the conference title the last 10 years in a row. How did we do it? I like to think we did it by recognizing our problems and overcoming them when possible, by actually turning them into advantages. Our first problem was attitude. We thought and acted like losers. Like most losers in life, we had built-in reasons for losing. You've heard them all before. Losers say, we're small. Our competitors are big and powerful. Our location is bad. Our building or our store isn't as nice as our competitors. We don't have the home office support, and we don't have the advertising budget. Our product won't do everything our competitors will, and so on. Losers find reasons to lose. Gradually, we changed that. We knew we had to believe in ourselves before anyone else would believe in us. We had to believe we could win where we were with what we had. We started thinking and acting like winners. We might have been kidding ourselves, but that's far better than acting like losers. Our first game in 1972 was against Kansas State. They were from the powerful Big 8 Conference. We were a decided underdog. During the week leading up to that game, I decided to form a player council. I would have each group on the team, defensive line, secondary, linebackers, offensive line, offensive back, and receivers, elect their own representatives to form the council. These 6 players, along with the 2 co-captains and myself, would be the nucleus of the council. I established guidelines under which we would operate, and we met weekly from that time on. The idea was to have better communication between the coaching staff and the team. They, in fact, would have a voice in some aspects of the team. It was also a great vehicle for me to relay to the team what was necessary for them to start thinking like winners. It was also an excellent opportunity for me to use the committee as a sounding board for new ideas and to receive input from them. The council had such a big impact that we soundly defeated Kansas State. Another problem was our location. Who ever heard of Provo, Utah? And who would ever want to go to school there? Who would want to go to a place where there was a lot of snow in the winter? We always used to pray for decent weather and no snow when it was time for recruiting visits. We finally decided to change our attitude and make the snow work for us instead of against us. Now we sell the snow. In fact, if there is no snow in town, we take our recruits a couple of miles up the canyon where there is some snow. We show them how much fun snow can be and how to enjoy the change of seasons. One of the first players we recruited was Michele Iramia, a young man from Samoa who played 1 year of high school football in New York. I remember the first time I saw him when he came to campus for a visit. A tall, thin, well-built, handsome young man with a ready smile. He was very nervous about coming into a new environment, and when we suggested going into the canyon to play in the snow, his eyes opened wide, his mouth dropped, and he said, "Coach, I have hardly ever seen snow, let alone play in it." We exposed Michele to skiing and snowmobiling that weekend. He had such a great time, he decided to enroll at BYU. The next 4 years, we had a tough time keeping Michele off the ski slopes and in the classroom. He loved it so much. However, he did graduate in 4 years, received his master's degree in public administration, and is now in Samoa working for a large corporation. It has worked for us, and there is a lesson here for people in most of life's endeavors. You can't hide the obvious, so try and make it work for you, not against you. There are 4 major schools in Utah, a state with only a little over 1 million people. That means there aren't enough good athletes to go around. So we faced a problem of where to recruit. We went to California and Hawaii. We rely heavily on California. That doesn't mean there are better athletes there, just more of them. We had a small stadium when I started, but a little success took care of that, just as a little success in business leads to expansion. In my time at BYU, our stadium has gone from 10,000 to 32,000 to 65,000 seats, and we sell out every game. In the beginning, we also faced a problem of limited administrative support. You know how that goes. The boss doesn't appreciate you, or won't give you enough salesmen or the equipment and facilities you need. I had only 6 assistant coaches, while our competitors had the full staff of 8 that the NCAA rules allowed. After my first season, one of our defensive coaches left. In the process of finding a replacement, I located 2 outstanding defensive coaches who were both oriented toward working at BYU. Since we were already 1 coach short on the defense, I sold the administration on the idea that both men were outstanding coaches, and making a decision as to which one to hire was very difficult. Could we hire both? We had had a little more success that first year than was anticipated, so the climate was right, and they approved the request. The lesson here is that patience and a little success can solve a lot of problems. If, in the beginning, I had demanded more assistance, I probably would have been turned down, and this would have widened the gap between the administration and the football program. We had another unique problem at BYU. The Mormon religion encourages their young people to spend a certain amount of time doing missionary work. This takes them out of school for up to 2 years. It also takes them off the football field if they happen to be football players, and a lot of them are. In the old days, everyone assumed that players who served missions would never come back to play football, and if they did, they wouldn't be any good. In fact, our opposition felt sorry for us, because just about the time a player was ready for varsity football, he would be called to serve a 2-year mission. What did we do with that situation? We stayed in touch with the missionaries by writing to them regularly while they were gone. We saved their scholarship and encouraged them to return to play football after their mission. The result is that we have players coming back 2 years older, more mature, and usually wiser. Now our opponents don't feel sorry for us. Instead, they claim we have an unfair advantage because we are playing with a bunch of old men. What we did here was turn a unique problem into a huge plus. And we did it by simply letting the players who went on missions know that we cared about them and wanted them back. We encouraged the poor players to return just as much as we did the good players, and for good reason. No matter who you are, and no matter what your line of endeavor, nothing you will ever do is more important than letting those around you know you care for them and are concerned about their welfare. This builds a family atmosphere and makes for unity and breeds success. In 1973, Lance Reynolds started for us as a sophomore, with the promise of becoming the best offensive lineman who ever played for BYU. After the 73 season, Reynolds was approached by his bishop about going on a Mormon mission for 2 years. Lance had always wanted to go on a mission. However, football was important to him, and he could see that he could have a great career as a player. At that time, people still believed that missions ruined football careers. Lance had a very difficult decision to make. After much soul-searching and prayer, he decided to go on a mission. I told Lance to go and be the best missionary he could be, and that I would have his scholarship waiting for him when he returned. He was a great missionary and served the last few months of his mission in the mission presidency, an honor not accorded many missionaries. When he completed his mission and returned to school and the football team, he found the transition period of getting ready, physically and mentally, very difficult. However, he stayed with it and became an all-conference lineman. He was drafted into the NFL, but an unfortunate injury kept him from playing pro ball. Today, Lance is a member of our coaching staff and is doing a great job. More than 2,500 years ago, Sun Tzu, a Chinese general, wrote a great book on military strategy. He said, "Regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you wherever you may lead. Look upon them as your beloved sons, and they will stand by you even unto death." The biggest problem I had when I became a head coach at BYU was how to win some football games. Coaches must be productive, just like you, in order to put food on the table. We have to meet the quota. Looking good is the bottom line. We all have to win. And how much and how often we have to win is usually determined by someone else. In the case of coaches, the alumni generally make the final decision. BYU had mainly been a running team, but with little success. I had to evaluate that and decide what we could do to win more often. I'm not a genius. On the contrary, I'm not ashamed to say I consider myself a plodder. I grew up on a farm, one of 14 children who were used to doing things the hard way. But I'm not afraid to take a chance, and I like to win. I decided that we were going to try to win rather than try to keep from losing. We weren't going to be so afraid of losing that we never got around to winning. I'm also able to face facts. I knew BYU couldn't consistently recruit the speed necessary for a great running game. California kids with great speed don't go to BYU. They go to Southern Cal or UCLA or somewhere else, not Provo, Utah. I couldn't see that we had any future trying to build a successful football team based on a running attack. I made the decision to throw the football. We would pass and pass some more. We would pass from any place on the field, and we would control the game by the pass. We would live by the pass, and maybe even die by the pass. I was committed to throwing the football. At the same time, I decided, like most coaches, that we would place great emphasis on defense so that we could get the ball. I also placed equal emphasis on our kicking game so we could get the ball in field position that would enhance the chances of our passing game. I hired an assistant coach named Dewey Warren from Tennessee to help formulate the passing game. The decision was made. Our goals were set. And, like anybody in any line of work who makes a tough decision and sets lofty goals, we had a difficult time sticking to the plan. In my first year, we had no passer, but we had a great running back in the program. So we did what came naturally. We built around him and won 7 games. At that point, it would have been understandable if we had lulled ourselves into thinking we could go on getting great running backs and winning with a run. But we stuck with our plan. The next year, we launched the passing game. And I wish I could tell you it was a thing of beauty, and we all lived happily ever after. It wasn't that way at all. We won 5 games and lost 6. I thought we made progress. Some of our fans thought we stunk up the place. It was our only losing year. In our 3rd year, we again were given every opportunity to question our decision to rely on the passing game. We lost our first 2 games, 15-13 and 9-6. Then, in the 3rd game, we were beaten badly. We had the 4th game won with less than 10 seconds to play, but we fumbled and our opponent recovered. They threw a touchdown pass and fortunately missed the extra point to tie us 33-33. If ever there was a time to give up, it was then. But we didn't. Instead, we won the next 7 games, won the 2nd conference championship in the history of the school, and went to the first bowl game ever for BYU. The rest is history. We missed a conference title in 1975, but won the next 10 straight conference championships, and in 1984, we won the national championship. We have stuck with our passing game, and we have averaged about 37 points per game, with about 480 yards total offense per game. Those numbers will win most games, and that is what we've done. In the 80s, BYU has won more games than any other Division I school. You might say we play under something of a handicap when we take the field, because our opponents know what we are going to do on offense. We're going to pass, but I like to think that I know some other things that we're going to do. I like to think that we're going to try and try hard on every play, and that we're not going to give up, that we're going to maintain our poise, and that we're never going to leave the field, feeling that we didn't give it our best effort through the final down. Steve Young, our All-American quarterback during the 1982 and 83 seasons, is probably the greatest all-around athlete I have ever had the opportunity to coach. Steve is an unusually gifted athlete. In fact, Steve could play any one of 4 positions: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, or defensive back. He has good size, great speed, and great coordination. Although these qualities have helped make him into a champion and an All-American, it is his mental attitude that overshadows any other quality. 2 experiences illustrate my point. The first happened when, as a junior in college, Steve had his first starting assignment as a quarterback. We were playing the University of Georgia in Athens before 82,000 screaming Bulldog fans. It was a rainy day, and we were the underdogs. Georgia had won the national championship the year before, and Herschel Walker, their great running back, was returning. The first half of the game, Steve threw 5 interceptions, 3 of them deep in Georgia's territory. The turnovers not only resulted in our losing the ball, but also eliminating definite scoring opportunities via the field goal. Even with these turnovers, the game was tied at halftime 7-7. Going into the locker room, I thought it would be wise to get Steve off to himself and build up his confidence. I found a place where we were alone, and I began this great speech of how we must put the interceptions out of our minds and concentrate on the good aspects of the game so far. As I was getting ready to make this point, Steve said, "Coach, don't worry. There's no problem. I can hardly wait to get back out there the next half. We are going to win this game." I remember thinking to myself, what do you mean there's no problem, you dummy? You have just thrown 5 interceptions in 1 half. Steve had a great second half, and we almost won the game. Georgia's Kevin Butler kicked a 45-yard field goal in the rain, against the wind, with few seconds remaining in the game, to ensure victory for Georgia. The next experience was against Ohio State that same season. We played in the 1982 Holiday Bowl and were soundly beaten by a strong Ohio State team. They were leading 47-17 with 45 seconds remaining in the game. Steve dropped back to pass. He couldn't find any receivers open and started to scramble, trying to find someone to throw the ball to. As he was running across the field, he was tackled from the blind side. The tackle was as hard a hit as I have ever seen. Steve had the wind knocked out of him and had to leave the game. We put in another quarterback. With a few seconds left in the game, Steve came to me on the sideline and said, "Coach, I've got to go back in the game." I told him no, because the game was totally out of reach and nothing could be accomplished with him going in for one play. Steve said, "Coach, they may win the game, but I don't want them to think they defeated us." With that, he ran out onto the field. I remember thinking, good luck. With time remaining for only one play, Steve dropped back and threw a nice pass over the middle for a completion. The final whistle blew and the game was over. Steve congratulated the Ohio State players and went to the locker room with his head held high, knowing he had given his best effort for the entire game. As I have thought about this experience, I think about some of the other players and what they were doing at the same time. Some were sitting on the bench with their heads in their hands. Others were making plans about what they were going to do after the game. In contrast, all Steve could think about was the game. He didn't quit until the final whistle. Is it any wonder that the next year he led our team to 12-1 record? In the process, he was a consensus All-American and later signed one of the largest contracts in sports history. I like the way Steve Young thinks. I believe that's probably the ultimate lesson of football, the lesson of never giving up, or never giving less than your best. It's easier to keep trying if you have a good chance to win, or if your goal is almost within your grasp. It's a lot tougher if you, and those around you, think you have little or no chance to win. We played Southern Methodist in the 1980 Holiday Bowl. SMU had two powerful running backs, Eric Dickerson and Craig James. With 3 minutes and 56 seconds remaining in the game, we were behind 45-25. In those last 3 minutes and 56 seconds, we scored 3 touchdowns, blocked a punt, executed a perfect onside kick, ran a 2-point play, and prevented them from making a first down. We did all of this with time running out. With 18 seconds remaining in the game, we blocked an SMU punt. With 3 seconds remaining, Jim McMahon completed a 50-yard Hail Mary pass to our tight end Clay Brown in the end zone. This made the score 45-45. With no time on the clock, Kurt Gunther, a walk-on place kicker, booted the PAT and we won the game 46-45. All of this was done with the thought of our 1979 Holiday Bowl loss to Indiana, where we were behind with a few seconds left and missed a field goal that would have won the game for us. The key to handling problems is to keep a clear perspective on the total situation. Recognize what is most important in life, and especially maintain a sense of humor. This will help us to realize the importance of having balance in our lives. I pride myself on being a hard worker, but I'm not a workaholic. I see too many coaches who believe if long hours are good, then longer hours are better. They tend to lose sight of what life was really all about. They become one-dimensional and often lose sight of the truly important aspects of their lives. When the pressure is the greatest and the problems are many, I think of a statement by Confucius that states, "This too will pass." I also step back and think of the things that are truly important to me in my life: my wife, my children, and my belief in God. These things are far more important to me than anything else in the world. When I do this, it does wonders for me. In 1972, my first year as a head coach, I placed so much pressure on myself that I honestly didn't think I would survive. Halfway through the season, I received a call from my high school basketball coach, Mel Briggs. He has been a great influence on me throughout my life. He told me that his 17-year-old son, Tommy, was dying of leukemia. Tommy was a great athlete and a leader in high school. Mel told me that Tommy wanted to see me. My wife and I drove to Salt Lake City to see Mel, his wife, and Tommy. I spent one of the greatest hours of my life talking with Tommy. He was so proud of me becoming the head football coach at BYU and of the early success we were having. He had no time for sorrow or regrets about his situation. Going home that night, I had a completely different perspective on what was truly important. Whenever we think we have problems, all we have to do is visit with the Tommies of this world, visit a jail, visit a crippled children's hospital, lose a loved one, or visit a nursing home. Such experiences will help us reevaluate our priorities. Remember, problems are normal. There will always be problems. Most are solved with cooperation and understanding, rather than with intimidation and confrontation. Simplify your life. Solve your problems by learning how to handle them. They won't go away, so face up to them. The sooner, the better.